overflow for YouTube because, as you may have heard from somewhere along the line in the last 2 days, we are hitting capacity in terms of uploading videos straight to Google Drive. So I think last I heard, the video, if you watch a video in Google Drive up to 50 times, then that video no longer is available to be viewed. So because of that capacity limit, we're asking teachers to move their stuff into YouTube. You have a YouTube account already attached to your BSD email. So it's not like you're making a random account. It's going to be attached through everything that you do. So you're just going to use your single sign-on to get into it. We'll talk about how to set that up today. But there are some reasons for why we're doing that. And for those of you that are concerned with your littles and how they're going to access things, we'll go over how we're going to share both to Seesaw and to Canvas once we get our videos uploaded. Okay, so again, if you have questions, drop those in the chat, and Kristen's manning that for me, and we'll try and get those questions answered. So hi everyone, I'm Nicole Carter. I'm a part of the digital curriculum crew. In the past, I was in the classroom at the middle school level, but since coming here to Beaverton, I've been doing a lot of work with elementary, so I'm excited to see a lot of familiar faces. In my view screen, I like to call it my Brady Bunch screen, my gallery view here on Zoom, as well as in the chat. So thanks for joining us today. If you need any questions or anything as you're moving through, just feel free to email any of the digital curriculum crew. And again, big shout out to Kristen for my co-pilot today answering questions in the chat. Okay, so we have been talking through PD and the Patio, if you've came to any of our sessions, about just best practices within comprehensive distance learning. And so we're just going to continue to kind of reiterate some of those pieces. I think recording any of your things through YouTube and then posting those back up into Seesaw is one of those pieces where you're allowing for some differentiation. You're allowing for the teaching capacity to be used in multiple different platforms and accessible, whether kids can go into your classes live, or if they have to watch it later because they couldn't attend the live session. We're just providing different access points. The other piece that we've talked a lot about in terms of comprehensive distance learning is how important it is for us to make a humanized, intentional virtual environment. And as I've talked to a lot of people that have started in California and elsewhere in the country, you know, those personal connections, those humanized connections are what is going to make this experience better for everyone. Because it can be quite depressing to just see a black screen all the time when we're on Zoom. So just that humanizing piece is going to be incredibly important. And just know that we have made a conscious effort to be thinking about culturally responsive practices as well as anti-racist practices as we're moving forward throughout the rest of the year. So we want to make sure that we share that. Thinking about the equity lens questions as we move through everything. Okay, so I'm looking at my timer, so I want to keep on pressing forward. So I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my coworkers as we were thinking about protocols, especially for our little ones, because I know that we have been seeing a lot of chat come through in different Facebook groups, as well as, you know, through email, about the possibility of leaving a Zoom room open just like all day so that our little kinders, for example, don't have to keep signing in and signing out. So one thing to think about in terms of recording live teaching sessions from Zoom. This is one of the easiest ways for you to create that kind of virtual teaching component, video component, instructional component. However, your videos do not process out of Zoom until you close the Zoom room. Even if you pause your recording, because you can start your recording and pause it at any time. So let's say you know that you're giving a lesson, a 10-minute lesson for reading, and you hit that record, and then you're really good about it, and you stop that record after that first 10 minutes, and then you keep going about doing other different activities, and then now it's math time, you press record, you get that 10-minute math lesson, and you press pause, and you're doing other things. That 10-minute increment for reading, that 10-minute increment for math is then going to be compressed into one 20-minute video once you finally close out your Zoom room. So it's not keeping track of your different recording sessions in your Zoom. So the idea of leaving your Zoom room open all day does lend itself to some issues down the line in terms of processing that video component. So I want to make sure that I clearly state that for you guys, because in the end, you might end up with a 60-minute video recording, which is kind of hitting the limit, I think, of what Zoom actually allows you to do per session. And then you might have to then go back through and edit that video, which in my opinion, it's going to be a little bit easier to have that chunk recorded and compressed or processed once you close out Zoom, instead of having to go back through to editing. Now, we have done some videos on how to make virtual videos and how to do editing, so you could watch that and kind of get more on your skills with editing, but there's some things to think about in terms of workflow for how to get that video processed out of Zoom. The other thing to think about too, I was talking with another colleague that was saying it's taking hours to upload a video to YouTube. And my first question is, it shouldn't take hours. But how long is your video? So the longer your video, the longer it's going to take to process out of Zoom and download to your computer, and the longer it's going to take for you to upload back up to YouTube. So those shorter video chunks of like 10 minutes or so are going to be faster to process and to upload than a big, long, hour-long video. So some things to consider there. And then I guess thinking about how you might be having your students access your Zoom room. Are you doing a reoccurring meeting so the link doesn't necessarily change? So you can put that into Seesaw and maybe have that as, either a link in Seesaw or an activity that is just up and ready. I know Carrie is going to be doing a session on Thursday about creating a classroom app. But in reality, it's just a slide deck. So it's going to be really easy. She's going to walk you through step by step how to get that going. But that might be an option, for, especially for our little ones, of a button that they can press to automatically open up Zoom and kind of take away some of those issues that we might have about having the little ones sign in and sign out. Okay, so I know you're saying I'm here for YouTube, but I think that these are part of the bigger question about uploading our YouTube videos and thinking about the processing. Okay, a couple of other protocols to think about when in Zoom. You do need to record your one-to-one sessions. If you do have 2 volunteers potentially helping you with breakout rooms, which I think breakout rooms are fantastic, they need to go through the protocol for volunteering through the district, and then I would really recommend that you train them on how to use Zoom, and more importantly, your expectations for them being observers for behavior management and not necessarily teachers in the room. And then thinking about giving students specific tasks and directions during those times when you do in fact have to do like a breakout room or go into another room. Also think in terms of when you do launch breakout rooms, you do not record every breakout room. Every breakout room becomes its own Zoom session. And the only way you can record it is by you physically going into that room. It's going to record wherever you are and what you are seeing, and it won't record each individual room that you might be making or creating. So okay, again, those are the pieces and components in terms of recording video and recording video through Zoom. Okay, so if you can I have you guys go ahead and open up a tab on your computer and follow through these steps with me. If you can, move the screen that I'm sharing maybe into a smaller window and then open up another window so that you can open up a tab. And I'm going to have you go to YouTube. Just go to youtube.com. What you're going to do is go into the upper right-hand corner, and you'll probably see your initials. Unless you've gone in and added in your profile picture and stuff, it's probably going to be your initials instead of your face in the top right-hand corner. And then what you're going to do is go ahead and click on your channel. So if you've never set this up before, it's going to pop up with this window you see that says Kat Davenport on it. It's going to pop that up into the middle of your screen and say, hey, you need to create your channel. So as soon as you type in your name or make sure your name is spelled correctly, then you just hit the button that says create channel. I've gotten a couple of emails over the last week that says, hey, YouTube's not letting me upload anything above 15 minutes. Well, what you also need to do is approve your channel. And so I have just a quick video with no sound that we're going to show you here. So once you go into your channel, there is a section at the top that just says approve. You can also go into your settings. I'm going to let it play one more time so you can see it again. You can also go into your settings and approve it. It also might send you an email that says, I need you to approve or validate that this is you and this is your email. So there's a couple of different ways about that, but if you hit that screen where it won't let you upload something longer than 15 minutes, it's just simply because you haven't gone through and approved your channel yet. Okay. Now, in terms of actually uploading the video, here are your steps. You're going to go to youtube.com. Then you're going to go into your channel, or you can also hit the little video camera with the plus sign in it. It's the create button. So it's either way. You can either go into YouTube Studio or your channel, or hit that create with the plus sign on it. And then you're going to go to upload video. Now, when you go to the upload video screen, you can either drag or drop or search through your computer to find a video that you would like to upload. So I'm going to walk through live demo that with you right now, just so you can see it. So I typically click on my face and I'll go to YouTube Studio. But you can see that I clearly have that create button when I just go into youtube.com as well. So I'm going to hit create, go to upload video. I'm going to select my file. And in this instance, I do have to find a movie. So let's find, okay, here's a movie. So I'm going to upload that MP4 file as just a video file. So I'm going to open that. Now this is a 45-minute video, so it will take a little bit of time. And once I'm in this screen, these are the pieces that you have to fill out. And I'm going to switch back so I can walk through that so it's nice and clear for you. So you've got the title of your video, which you can change at any time. You've got a description for your video, which really isn't that important in the whole scheme of things. You are not necessarily sending students to YouTube. So maybe it's only for you on the back end to know what the video is about. The thumbnail isn't really important. You can create a thumbnail ahead of time and upload it, or it will just grab a picture from the middle of the video and just automatically choose one for you. You can also grab the link even before your video is done processing. And I know I said I was going to stay there, but it's uploading this random video and I don't want it to. So I'm going to cancel that upload. Okay, so you can grab this link at any time, even when your video is not done processing. So you can actually grab it from here. Additionally, you can create a playlist. Again, we're not sending students to YouTube, so the playlist is maybe more for your benefit of organization than for anyone else. It is made for kids, so you might want to go ahead and just hit that button that says yes, it's made for kids, so that there's extra protection for our students in terms of FERPA and COPA. And then you just hit the next button. And I don't do anything on this screen. This is for additional elements that I don't ever do. So I hit the next button. And then on the last one, and probably the most important part, under the save and publish, the one you're going to want to click on is unlisted. So that is enough of a walled garden for us, because not only are we keeping it unlisted, the only way you can watch it is if you have access to the link. And then we're also putting it into Seesaw, which you have to have access to the account to even get in and get the link. So you're doing your due diligence to make sure that your content is within what we would call, you know, a walled garden. And then you're going to hit save. And that's kind of the last piece on the video piece. So the slide deck I've kind of built as a resource for you. So there is 2 videos that walk you through both of these big process pieces that I've just went through. How to set up your channel from the beginning, and then also how to upload straight to YouTube. Okay, so they're there, so you can come back to it. Now, the all-important part, you've uploaded to YouTube, you have your video. How do you share it to Seesaw, and how do you share it to Canvas? So the first piece, if you are with older kids and you aren't necessarily worried about just dropping a link from YouTube into the main feed of Seesaw, then you would just grab that URL and add it as a link to Seesaw, and you're done. But I know that we had a lot of teachers in the spring last year that were really concerned about letting our little ones go into YouTube to watch a video, because then they can start to click on links of other videos that distract them. So that is a little bit more of a process. So bear with me as I kind of tell you what to do. So in this instance, what you would do is create a slide deck with just one slide, and then you'd put your video on it. Now, if you created a couple of different videos, one for reading, one for math, one for science, or whatever, you could potentially give them a 3-slide deck. That's up to you. But what you're gonna do is create a slide, and I would actually recommend that you start in Google Drive and organize yourself from the beginning and just create a Google Drive folder that has all of your slide deck videos in it. You can maybe even do a folder within a folder of your units or subject levels. Totally up to you, your organization piece, but I definitely would recommend going with a folder first. And then I would just create a template so that it's easier for me than having to recreate a new slide every single time. So a template for me would be to create a blank layout where we put a black background on it, and then we go ahead and just add the video on top of that. So you're going to go to insert, go to video, and then you're going to copy and paste your URL. The reason I'm telling you to do a black background is just so that the video disappears into the screen. I'm recommending you do it like this. So this is a black background with a video over the top of it that I've resized to make it fit the size of the slide. And then that's it. So I would just make one, and I've given you, and Kristen will drop it in the chat for you. I don't really know why it's doubled here, but I've made a template for you already, so you can just make copies of that. If you don't want to go through the steps I just highlighted, just make a copy of that one. Once you have that in there, you want to make sure that you say autoplay when presenting. And then the last part, again, these are extra steps. So this is what we're doing to make sure that our little ones don't go down the rabbit hole of opening up YouTube, okay? So then the last step would be, you're gonna publish that slide deck to the web. So once you've published it to the web, that's the link you drop into Seesaw. And what that's gonna do is create a slide that starts playing as soon as they open it. And then it shows just that slide deck. So it's not taking them into the editing portion of Google Slides. It's just going to start playing the video, and then when they're done, they'll close that screen. Now, we have had a lot of people say, well, but wait, is there any way to get rid of this YouTube thing at the bottom? There isn't. So potentially your students could click on that tiny YouTube button in the bottom and open up a new window going to YouTube. There is a potential there. But this is the best way that we've been able to come up with for this workflow. And that might be something that, you know, you have conversations with parents about, maybe you have conversations with the students about, maybe you don't mention it until you start to notice or hear from parents that they are actually doing that. That's up to you, but this is the best workaround that we have at this point in time for all of the reasons I've already lined up. Why we wouldn't just put it into Google Drive, why we're telling you to go to YouTube. Ultimately, you're going to have a lot of video content that your students are going to be accessing, depending on if they're in a live Zoom with you or not. So just something to think about, the capacity and the amount, the sheer amount that you will be creating, even within the first month, is potentially quite large, and Google Drive isn't going to fit the bill for that. Okay, now for those of you that are in 3rd, 4th, or 5th and have made the decision to go to Canvas, I have good news. It's even easier. So in Canvas, no matter what piece you're doing, whether you're making an announcement, whether you're making a page, whether you're making a discussion, a quiz, an assignment, all of them have the same, what they call the rich text editor. So it's just the window where you type and give all of your instructions. So it has a little YouTube button, nice and easy to identify. It's the YouTube icon. You'll just click that, copy and paste the URL, then you hit the embed button and you're done. So Canvas already, this is one of the reasons why you would use something like Canvas, is because it already has built-in pieces to wipe out all of the additional stuff. So it's not going to give you ads. It's not going to give you watch this video next or anything. It's going to play that one video and that one video only, and you're done. Okay. So if you have Canvas, that is your workflow. All right. So I'm watching my time. I now have a little bit of time to go back and address any issues or questions. Kristen's going to help me with that. But I'm trying to think if I want to leave the camera recording or not. I guess I will. But we have about 5 minutes until we hit the 2:30 mark. Thank you for walking through this with me. I know I went really fast and there was a lot of content to digest. The video should be up and running for you by end of day today. And you also have access to the slide deck to come back and walk through and use it as a resource. Okay, Kristen, hit me with it.
Nicole, can you walk through pretty quickly, or actually a bit more slowly, how when we're in YouTube and we are trying to set up our channel and a playlist?
Okay, so when you go to youtube.com, I'll go back to youtube.com. It's hard to walk you live through how to do that because I set up my channel ages ago. So the best way for me to show you is really with those screenshots that I had at the very beginning. And I'll kind of go back through those. Where are you? Okay. So you have to go into the upper right-hand corner. Mine has my face, but yours is probably initials. And then you will have to hit your channel. If you have never done this before, then a box will pop up that looks like this box here that says Kat Davenport. And it will say, you need to create your channel because you've never been here before. And then you'll just go ahead and double check that the name is correct and you'll hit create channel. Now, to create a playlist, that's kind of a different story. So to create a playlist, you could go into YouTube, and then over here on the navigation on the left-hand side, we can click on playlist, and up here we can click on create new playlist. Now, as you can see, you can create a playlist without any videos in it. So if you know your upcoming units or how you might want to organize a playlist, you can create that ahead of time and then add videos in. You can also create videos from things that you see on YouTube. Now that you have a channel, you can go in and like videos. You can highlight videos. So if there are, for instance, there was a couple of videos I really liked when I was trying to learn more about Zoom. And so I added them to a playlist. So you can do that straight from a video. If I go back to YouTube, lately I've been watching a lot of people that have started virtual learning in Texas and California. This guy's really great if you haven't watched any of his videos. So let's say I like this video, pause. To add it to a playlist from here, I just hit this plus sign. And then I can grab a playlist or create a new playlist from here. So you can also create playlists from resources and videos that you like on YouTube that are not your own. Okay. Again, a playlist is not necessarily something that I would curate and just give to kids necessarily, because I mean, you could, I guess, you could throw a link to a playlist that you've curated into Seesaw. Canvas, the way I showed you with Canvas, it doesn't embed a whole playlist. It will embed the first video of the playlist. So it's a little bit of a different process for a full playlist, but playlist would be mostly, I think, for your end of organization, I guess. Okay. Did I answer that, Kristen?
Yeah, thank
you.
Nicole, I want to shamelessly plug that have some office hours next week, so that if people are feeling like this was a lot, that they can come and we can offer in smaller groups some support on setting some of these pieces up.
Wonderful. Good plug. We were thinking, in the spring, our office hours just weren't widely attended. So we thought if we did a more focused support hour where you knew, okay, I'm having issues with this YouTube thing, we have a designated hour for YouTube support. So perfect. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and then can you review why you might send a student straight to your YouTube playlist versus keeping them within Seesaw or Canvas?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't send a kid to a playlist. There's, in my mind, there's no reason for us to be doing that. I would hope that you're creating activities where you're potentially like embedding some of these videos in the activity itself, or you're putting the activity in the feed on Seesaw, specific to the day and the content. And it isn't something where, I mean, a playlist is going to be a series of videos that could be hours long of content. And I don't know why we would be sending elementary students to hours worth of content necessarily. Same could be said for Canvas. If you're intentionally designing on Canvas, the video should be housed within directions and instructions that are specific to that day's assignment or discussion thread or quiz, or however you're putting that together. 4th and 5th grade teachers, Carrie and I will be going over an entirely built Canvas module of your first writing unit of the year that we have built as an exemplar to showcase how to utilize Canvas with intentionality, with humanizing pieces, and how to teach your kids to use all of the tools and features in Canvas. So that's on Thursday, and I would highly recommend that you attend that with us, because we have embedded videos within specific directions and pieces. So I don't necessarily see us ever really giving a playlist to a student.
Sure. So our workflow would be make our video.
Yep.
Take it to YouTube because of storage on Google Drive.
Yes.
And because we don't have storage on our computers.
Yes.
And then it seems like,
even if you store it on your computers, how will your kids get it? Right.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
Okay. Keep going.
So from there, because I have my secondary hat on, I would probably put it in a Google slide, because then my kids can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like they can only watch that.
Yeah.
And then I would put it in Seesaw, or I'd put it in Canvas. And I know that seems like many steps, but it starts to get pretty quick once you're going.
Uh-huh.
And it keeps my students exactly where I want them to be.
Exactly. Perfect. Really well said. And that Google slide step is only if you're in a community of learners where you are fearful of them being set free in the rabbit hole that is YouTube. That would be our workaround.
Yeah, and Susanna, I'll put the workflow in the chat. Nicole, I'm in information overload. Can you please remind everybody about whether we can see students' faces when we're posting those videos?
Okay, so when you are potentially in a Zoom and you might be teaching content like I have done today, for the most part, the only video that will be showing up in the recording of the Zoom is the person that is talking. So my face and Kristen's face will be showing up in the Zoom, and that is it. Students' faces will not be showing up. Now, if you're doing a call and response with students, then yes, there is a potentiality that their face will be in the Zoom recording. So pay attention to that. If you're going to do a call response, that might be a perfect and appropriate time for you to stop or pause your recording and then resume the recording if you are concerned about students' faces. Now, on uploading into YouTube, when you go to that unlisted category of sharing, then that means that the only people that can find and or see or watch that video are people that have the link, aka people that have signed into your Seesaw account. So it is not available for anyone to search for and randomly watch on YouTube. You've done your due diligence at that point. Now, could potentially a parent grab that YouTube URL and share it to a grandparent? Yes. So we do have to think about that. And I think too, double check, like always, which students in your classroom might not have the photography / video waiver, the ones that you can't take a photo of, and just be double checking on that. And again, be very cognizant of how you're taking your videos. but you've done your due diligence at that point. So yes, students' faces potentially could be in your video. You also are clicking on there that your video was made for students. So it's also getting extra filters on the YouTube side because of COPA and the under 13 laws. Okay. All right, again, remember that we've got that Q&A document that Kristen has been diligently grabbing all of your comments and putting those into that document. So we will come back as we're done here and processing the video. We'll come back and try and answer as many questions on that document as possible. So if your question was not specifically answered, then check back on that doc and we'll get to it. I'm gonna stop my recording now. And again, thank you for joining us today. Keep in mind some of our other options for the rest of the week in terms of tech training, and know that we will have that YouTube support hour next week as you get started with this and maybe have questions. Thank you, everyone.